We got ghosts that walk around the nude. We have a hotel that used to be a hospital. This is a creepy list. If you're ever in Texas, check some of these places out, will ya? I don't think it can get any creepier than a hotel that used to be a hospital. Forget just a single room. Every room at the Emily Morgan Hotel in San Antonio is said to be haunted. If you go here, expect some eerie stuff to happen. There are certain floors said to be more active than others, though. Guests on the 11th floor have reported seeing a woman in a hospital gown ambling through the hallway late at night, often weeping. Then she'll disappear after walking into one of the rooms. Late at night, guests will also hear what sounds like a hospital gurney being rolled down the hallway. Guests on the 9th floor will often say they hear their toilet seats lifting and slamming shut on their own, and whispers and murmurs will be heard from unoccupied rooms on the floor. Dark humanoid shapes are often spotted on the 7th floor. Ghosts like to sing on the 3rd. But the creepiest thing said to go on at the Emily Morgan has to do with the elevators. They like to do their own thing. Sometimes they'll just go past the floor that guests press, which is annoying, but most disturbingly, they'll head straight for the basement, which during the building's hospital days was the morgue.
Located in the heart of Austin lies the Driskill Hotel, which is home to an incredibly aggressive ghost, Jesse Driskill himself. The hotel was built by Jesse in 1886 using ill-gotten funds. He was a terrible racist, a womanizer, and an aggressive drunk. Also, he had a gambling problem. One night, he bet his hotel in a poker game, and he lost. He spent the rest of his life miserable and often swearing revenge on the new owners of the hotel. And apparently, when Driskill died, he got that revenge. Many people have claimed to have been woken up at 3 a.m. only to see Jesse Driskill standing in their rooms looking out the window and smoking a cigar. And apparently he gives off a bit of an uneasy feeling, which is understandable because he was horrible. Of course, Jesse is not the only ghost known to haunt the hotel. There is also the ghost of a jilted bride who took her own life after her fiance decided he no longer wished to marry her. And the ghost of another young woman, the daughter of a high-profile politician who took quite the tumble down the hotel stairs and died upon reaching the ground floor. She is said to haunt the stairwell, as well as a painting in one of the rooms on the 5th floor. As for the ballroom, it's said to be frequented by the ghost of the late President Lyndon Johnson and his wife, Lady Bird. It seems there's a ghost for everyone at this place.
One of the most haunted hotels in the entire state of Texas is the Sheraton Gunter Hotel in San Antonio, and room 636 is said to be particularly eerie. A gruesome death happened in that room, and according to the staff and many guests who've checked into it, the victim has never truly left. So this hotel is on the National Register of Historic Places. There is a lot of history here. The building's gone through a number of renovations and has changed ownership multiple times, but it's existed in some form since 1837. In 1909, it was renovated into what you see today, the Sheraton Gunter Hotel. There are multiple ghosts said to lurk in the hotel, but the creepiest activity goes on in room 636. Sure, you'll get all your typical ghostly activity, but the backstory is the truly horrific part here. In 1965, a man named Walter Emmerich checked into the hotel, staying in room 636. Witnesses would report having seen the man chatting it up with a pretty blonde woman who suddenly went missing. On the day Emmerich was supposed to check out, the maid arrived at his room late in the afternoon and entered, but it wasn't empty. He was found sitting on the bed. There were red stains everywhere, covering the walls and the sheets. No body was ever found, but there were long blonde hairs in the sheets and more stains lining the inside of the bathtub and the toilet. Emmerich fled the scene. Police caught up with him at another hotel. As soon as they arrived, though, he took his own life, taking all the secrets as to what really happened that day with him. But police did some digging, and it turned out he'd argued with a store clerk weeks before because they didn't carry a large enough meat grinder to suit his needs. Put two and two together.
When thousands of people die unexpectedly due to natural disaster, one can only assume that at least some of them will stick around to haunt the place. In this case, the place is Galvez Hotel, located in Galveston, Texas. On September 8th of 1900, a hurricane tore through the city of Galveston, devastating it and claiming the lives of 8,000 of its residents. 11 years later, the Galvez Hotel was built directly on top of the grounds where so many people had lost their lives just a few years prior. It is believed that those are the spirits that haunt the Galvez Hotel. Also, that as the hotel grows, so do its permanent residents. Each time a body is unexpectedly uncovered during a building renovation, people think that its spirit becomes trapped in the hotel along with the rest of the ghosts already residing there. But ironically, perhaps the most active ghost on the premises is not the ghost of someone who died in the hurricane, but rather someone who took her own life in the hotel after learning that her husband had become lost at sea during another hurricane that took place 15 years later in 1915. She is known to mess with electronic keys and create intense cold spots in the hotel, and has sometimes been seen wandering around the halls looking for her lost love. What's really sad is that after she took her life, her husband actually came back from sea. He never died, and he had to come back and find out that his wife was dead instead.
The Baker Hotel in Mineral Wells is notorious for a terrifying ghost that's said to haunt the entire 7th floor, and the spirit of a bellhop who was cut in half in an elevator accident. The hotel is closed for renovations right now. It sat abandoned for a while, but it's reopening in 2026. For decades though, guests would tell stories about their encounters with the Mistress Baker and the ghostly torso of the bellhop, amongst other ghosts. This place was, and will hopefully continue to be, pretty active when it's reopened. The mistress haunts the entire 7th floor. She was the mistress of a man named T.D. Baker, who was also said to haunt the hotel. The woman jumped to her death from the 7th floor, and ever since her death, guests would report seeing, hearing, or feeling her presence. Literally. Apparently she's a pretty touchy-feely ghost, especially with male guests. People would often spot her nude as well, so maybe not the worst time. Then there's the bellhop ghost though, said to appear as a disembodied torso. So call me crazy, but I think I'd take the nude mistress over this guy. Douglas Moore was a young worker at the hotel who arrived early for work one day in 1948. So to entertain his friends, he started messing with the service elevator, jumping in and out when it was still moving. The safety features weren't to the standard we have today, and his legs got trapped in the doors of the rising elevator. You can kind of picture what happened. His legs became separated from his body when the elevator reached that next floor. It's pretty horrific.
That was fun. What about a hotel built directly on top of the Alamo battlefield, specifically the Crockett Hotel located in San Antonio, haunted by the ghosts of some 193 soldiers who died during the Battle of the Alamo that took place in 1836. Many people who have stayed at the Crockett have reported seeing a man in a dark blue jacket that resembles the uniforms worn during the battle stalking the hallways of the hotel. The sounds of disembodied footsteps outside of rooms have also been known to keep guests up at night. Not only that, but apparently the curtains and elevators in this hotel tend to have a mind of their own, opening and shutting at their leisure and messing around with guests by stopping on random floors. Luckily, they have yet to someone in half, but you never know.
If you ever find yourself in Marathon, Texas, the Gage Hotel may be a place you want to check out. It's got a nice pool, which you'll probably be itching to get into to cool off in the Texas desert heat. And if you're a fan of animal skulls and taxidermy, you might like some of the decor. Just don't stay in room 10 if you prefer to avoid encounters with the dead. The hotel opened in 1927, built by a man named Alfred Gage, who died just a year later. Unsurprisingly, he's said to remain in the hotel to this day. And there are said to be other ghosts too. Guests will report seeing figures walking through the hallways or sitting on the porch only to disappear after making eye contact. Apparently, a lot of guests try to avoid staying in room 10 though, saying they've woken up in the middle of the night with an apparition in antique clothing pacing around in their room.
The Magnolia Hotel is home to 13 permanent guests, many of which either died or were killed in the hotel. You can tell when they show up, not because you can see them, but because you can smell them, hear them, and feel them as well. When they walk by you, you can feel their bodies brush against your arms, and you can sometimes feel the arms of younger ghosts wrap around your legs in a hug as their laughter floats up through the air. Luckily, the majority of them are friendly, because if they have that much control over the realm of the living to make you feel their touch, I can only imagine what kind of damage these spirits could cause if they were spiteful or nude. There was one instance, however, where a spirit decided to show itself to a worker of the hotel. You see, when the new owners purchased the property, they realized that a lot of plumbing work had to be done, and in order to do it, they would actually have to dig a tunnel under the hotel. They hired a tunneler, he came, he dug, everything was fine, until the day they decided it was time to fill the tunnel back in. That day, the tunneler ventured under the hotel to go about business as usual, when all of a sudden he let out a guttural, terrified scream. When he emerged from the darkness, he looked as pale as a ghost, and then he explained why. During his final walk around, someone had actually tapped him on the shoulder, addressed him by name, and then when he turned around, he was staring into the dead eyes of a woman, staring straight back into his soul before disappearing into the dark.
The Menger Hotel in Alamo boasts a pretty famous ghost, Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah, forget spotting the ghost of some poor sap. Why not share a drink at the bar with the ghost of a former president? But Teddy Roosevelt isn't the only spirit said to stalk this place. The hotel was built in 1859, so suffice to say, there's a lot of history here and a lot of ghosts. Some will say as much as 32. One of the most frequently spotted is the ghost of a former chambermaid named Sally White, who was killed by her husband. Sally's a pretty fun ghost, often said to play pranks on the staff. There's a woman in a blue dress, often seen knitting in the lobby. She has a habit of vanishing into thin air, so people kinda think she may not be alive. There's also the spirit in the kitchen who likes to move utensils. All the ghosts here are said to be relatively friendly, but I don't know, you might get a little creeped out.
If dolls creep you out, you might want to look away, because this is the doll room of the Jefferson Hotel turned house, and I swear to God, it looks like something straight out of a nightmare. Jeremy Jones and his wife bought the hotel in 2020, and they decided to live there along with their daughter McKenna and their young son. They knew the hotel was haunted when they bought it, but it didn't bother them until one night when it did. Because of the popularity of the haunted hotel, urban explorers were known to attempt break-ins, likely because they were unaware that anyone actually lived there. Because of this, Jeremy decided to trick the house out with some motion sensor cameras that alerted him every time motion was detected in the house. One night, an alert went off. Jeremy looked at the cameras and immediately told his wife to call 911 because there was someone walking through their hallway near room 19, the most famous room of the hotel, due to the fact that a woman took her life there by jumping off of the 4-poster bed. You guys can kind of get what I'm talking about here. Jeremy then scoured the house, looking in all corners, but no one was there. And so, feeling like he was going crazy, he decided to double check the video, this time paying close attention, and when he did, he noticed that the body he saw in the hallway was actually more of a shadow, and it was also slightly see-through. It walked up to room 19 and then disappeared straight through the wall. And that's when he realized that what he had seen was not actually an intruder, but rather a ghost, and likely the ghost of room 19.
Which of these ghosts would you want to be friends with the most?
I know which one you want to be friends with.
That torso guy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cheers.